Hello, good day to you. You're welcome to icode.icode.me, and my name is Sam. And this week we're going to be looking at control flow statements in Python programming, and specifically we're going to be looking at conditional statements and loops. Now, here is what I'm talking about. We're going to be looking at control flow statement, under which we're going to be looking at the if statement, the elif, and the else statement. The control flow statement here is also what we refer to as conditional statement. And number two, we're going to be looking at loops. Specifically, we're going to be considering these two loops in Python, the for loops and the while loop. All right, so let's get started. Now, when we're talking about a conditional statement, look at conditional statement. Conditional statement is what we use almost every day in our day-to-day activities. Take, for instance, you need to do something and you are creating an option, right? Okay, you need to go to the supermarket A. You understand? If for any reason supermarket A doesn't open, you would go to or consider you sending someone to get you a bottle of drink, and you ask the person, please get me drink A. You understand? Sometimes you want to add condition. If there is no drink A, then get me B. Now, the reason you are adding the condition if is because you are trying to avoid, a case where there won't be any return, or where, sorry, I'm using the word return, where there won't be any where you are trying to avoid a null response, or a null a null response. You are trying to avoid the negative response. You are trying to avoid the case where you won't get anything, and that's why you are given that condition. Okay, so we use conditional statements in our day-to-day activities. You understand, and it's actually a way to make things look more effective, or let me rather say being effective. Now, even in our applications, we make use of this many times as users, but we don't know that is what we are doing. Okay, imagine you are playing a game, and in the character of the game, the character of the game has, is going on a particular route, and the character suddenly changes direction. Now, changing of that direction probably will be due to one reason or the other. Okay, and that control is being made using conditional statement, which here we also refer to as control flow statement. Now we're going to look at some other real life scenario. Take, for instance, you want to log in into your account, maybe your Facebook account, your Instagram, or whichever social account, or any other account. Of course, many a times when you enter wrong details, okay, you see a response. If you enter the right details, you see a response. Now these responses are due to your what's it called, your input. Take, for instance, you enter a wrong password, you will get messages like, invalid password or something, or password not correct or something. And if in the other way, password and username are wrong, are right, you still get a response, and the response is that you'll be logged into your dashboard and you can go ahead to do whatever it is you want to do. Now all those are still based on control flow statement if condition is being used. Okay, just like we say, um you ask someone to come to your house, okay, and you tell the person, you tell the security guard, and that, okay, someone is coming to check on me. Now, let's say for security reasons, you give the person the code and say, okay, take this passcode. The passcode is blue. You understand? And this, what the person is expected to do is that when the person gets to the security, the person is just meant to mention the passcode. You understand? And security will let the person in. Now there's a control flow statement there, or there's a control flow scenario there. Now if the person gets to security and tell the security red, definitely the security will know that, oh no, this is the wrong person. Okay. Now why? Because a condition is given. Now the only reason the security is going to allow the person to come in is if, you understand, the passcode is the same thing as what has been given to the security. You can see a control flow statement is being used. So in our day-to-day activities, we make use of control flow statements. Okay. All right. Now, I would like to let me give you another very common another example that may be that may be common to you. Now, let's take for instance you have a lot to do on your mobile phone or your laptop, but the only reason you'll be able to do that is if your phone or your device is charged. You understand? You're still using control flow statement. So there are so many areas where we use control flow statement, and of course in programming here, we make use of control flow statement, and there is a way it's being done. Now, let's look at this way. We're going to be, like I said, we're going to be looking at control flow statement, also what we refer to as a conditional statement. Okay, and I said under this we're going to be looking at the if, if, and we're going to be looking at the else. All right, now what are these actually? Now let's take for instance, I have a program where I'm to print something like welcome, something like this, like say welcome to your dashboard. Okay, sorry, dashboard. Now this is what you are meant to see in this application. Of course, if I should run this, let me click the play button. You'll see it down here. Welcome to your dashboard. Now, but let's say this program is not meant to be run by everybody, or let me rather say this response is not meant to be seen by everybody. Okay, let's say you have a password. Let's create a password and let's assign it to a value. You understand? So let's say password equals we can, yeah, I would like us to use a function called input. Okay, now what is input? Let me explain what an input is. Now, so far you discover that we've been running program in our dashboard. Presently, as this terminal is, you can't type anything here. I'm trying to, you understand, you can't type anything here. You can only highlight, but you can't type anything. Is that okay? All right. Now with this function, with the input function, you can interact with your terminal. That's this your terminal here. For instance, if I use this input function just the way it is, and I run this, okay. Now look at this. It's not showing anything, okay, but I can click and type in something there. Is that okay? Why? Because I use this input function. Is that okay? All right now, but if I should delete this, it's not showing anything. So a user may actually not know what is going on, okay, or probably what to do. So that's the reason why this input function can take some argument, and one of the most common arguments, or one of the most common parameters or things that you can pass into this function that can go into this bracket is what we call label. You can imagine, of course, but take note that it has to be a string. Imagine you write something like, what is your name? Okay. Now, when you run this again, let's stop and run this. Of course, you can see what is your name. So a user know what exactly he or she is meant to do. Okay, you can type some or whatever, press enter, but nothing's going to happen. Is that okay? So we can therefore make something happen here. For instance, this whole line, which is a string, can be assigned to a variable. Let's assign to a variable called name, for instance. Let's just call it name. Okay, so I remember, you remember we talked about variables, so you can check the previous video again to refresh yourself about what variables are. Now you can imagine I can print name here. That's the variable. I can print it. So that simply means that remember what is going to ask you first. What is your name? Now, whatever it is I typed here has been assigned to a variable called name. Okay, and immediately I press enter, it's meant to print that name. It's meant to print whatever it is I type in. You understand? So now let's see how this works. I'm going to play this button. Look at this. What is your name? So if I should type Dave or David, you understand, it's meant to print that David under this, like somewhere down this line, on the next line. Is that okay? All right, so let me just press the enter button, and you see that David. Now I can make this look more better, like probably saying hello David. So let's use an F string. Now what's an F string? An F string here is actually a string where you can insert a variable. You understand? So for instance, let's say hello. I want to insert this variable. I can't just type in hello name. It's not, it will just see this as a normal string. Do you get it now? But not variable. So if I want to use this variable here, I will have to put it in a curly braces like this, then type the name. Like, you understand? Okay, so now let's rerun this and let's see how this will work this time. Okay, what is your name? Let me say team. I press my enter key and you see that hello team. Okay, all right, so that's that about. So the input function will be better that we use in this my in what I'm about to do now, so that we can interact with it. All right, so I'll uncomment this. That's control forward slash. All right, so that it will reflect in our program. That's why we do that. Okay, um so we use an input function here, and of course this is meant to be a password, so I'm going to be typing in a label that would say enter password. I'm typing it in uppercase. You can do it, you can type that anyhow you want to. Okay, enter password. Okay, now remember I said something that when we run this program, it's meant to show this greeting, but we only want this to be shown to uh, not to everybody, but to to some set of people. You understand? And what are those set of people? Or who do we want who do we want, you know, who do we want to reveal this to? You understand? So let's create an if statement here. So this is going to be that we're going to be setting this password. Remember, a user is going to enter something, a set of numbers. You get it now. So we're going to be creating an if statement and say in lowercase, if whatever the person enter, which is called password. Remember, we have assigned this input, whatever is being entered to a variable called password. So we are now saying that if password, meaning if whatever it is the person enters, you understand, equals, we are comparing to, let's say the password is 0987, something like that. Now look at this. This is being underlined. Now this is starting from 0. So even if I remember that this input accept string, okay, but here this is an integer. Okay, this is an integer, but we can also convert this into a string. Remember what a string is by enclosing it in either single quotes or double quotes. Do you get it now? So we can make this also a string. Or if you don't want to make it a string, you want to make it an integer really. You want to leave it the way it is, like you want it to be an integer, like the way it is. Then that means you need to convert this one, whatever is being entered here, into an integer too. And how do you do that? Just type the int, which means integer, then put the input line, whatever, all this into a bracket like this. See that? So now it is an integer. Now the reason we are still having, okay, let me just do something now for now. Okay, now the reason we are still having this underlined here is because of this zero. So if I should remove that zero, you can see the line is no longer there, and that's simply because as far as integers are concerned, integers here is being recognized to start with natural numbers, with like, you understand, 1 2 whatever, but not 0. Okay, now if for any reason you want your password to start with 0, or you want whatever it is to start with 0, then it will be better that you leave this as a string. Okay, you leave this as a string, you understand, then that means the number here also should be what should be converted back into a string. Is that okay? So we can leave this now. All right, so now if password, meaning whatever is being entered here, is this, so meaning this is what is meant to be the correct password, 0987 is going to be the correct password. Then what should happen? Sorry, I use this pass here, this keyword pass here, because initially I wasn't ready to do this, but it was showing me error. So if I don't want it to show me error, I'll just put this pass as tentatively, you understand, just tentatively until I'm ready to put in something there. Is that okay? That was why I used the keyword pass. So that's what that keyword is meant to do. All right. So now if password equals this, you understand, then this should happen. But I can't leave this way because it's not well indented. Now take note of this particular thing feature in Python syntax. Anytime you use the keyword if, or you are writing a condition, you understand. Now you end it with a colon, the way I mean with a colon the way it is. Now the next line must be indented, meaning that though by default if I should press enter here, it will automatically indent it, meaning it's not going to start from the beginning of the line. Is that okay? And you are not meant to use spacebar to put it yourself. If not, you will put it at the wrong place. Is that okay? Now if at all you want to put that yourself, you can either press enter, it will do that by itself, or you press the tab key on your keyboard. Okay, the tab key, the tab key is just above the caps lock on the left hand side on your keyboard. Do you get it now? So you can press that once, so it will put the cursor where it's meant to be. All right, so now this is what is meant to be the next line of the program. So I'll just tab this, you understand? I'll just tab this, so meaning that if password equals this, it's meant to show this. Do you get it now? So now let's run the program again and let's see how this is going to work. Now I would like to put a space down here so that in my program, the lines won't be close. You understand? The line of enter your password and the response won't be too close. You understand? Just like this, there will be a kind of empty space in between. To create this empty line or this empty space is you can use this. All right. So now I'm going to run this again. Okay, look at that. Enter your password. See what the input function is doing for us. So if I should enter a wrong password, okay, it's not going to show anything. Do you see that now? But if I should enter the right password, what's the right password? 0987. Then it's going to show me that welcome. See, welcome to your dashboard. Okay. Now if I should put in a wrong password, you understand? It's not showing me anything. Why? Because we didn't make any provision for it. And what is that provision that I'm talking about? That's where the else comes in. Okay? That's where the else comes in. Don't worry, we're coming back to elif. Now that's where the else comes in. So that means that if password is this, if this condition is true, is that okay? Then give us this. What if the condition is not true? What if the password is not correct? It's not this. If whatever the person enter is not this, then what should happen? That's where the else comes in. So we say else, meaning if this condition is not being met. Is that okay? So you can see immediately we put our else. Let me do that again. Immediately I put my else. If you select it the way it is, you understand? If you select it the way it is, it will give you the column by itself. But if you type it in full yourself, if you type it in full yourself like this, it won't give you that automatically, but you have to put it yourself. That shift, the colon. Do you get it now? All right. So else, what should happen? Then it should print something like incorrect pin or incorrect password. Incorrect, incorrect password. Get that? So now instead of me having a blank page, a blank space when the password is wrong, rather it will give me this. Okay, so let's run this again. So okay, now look at that. Enter password. If I should enter correct password, which is 0987, of course, to give me the first program, which is welcome to your dashboard. And if it is wrong, to give me the second one. You understand? Look at that. Incorrect password. So that's where the else comes in. But what if you want to add more condition? For instance, the first condition is this, that if password is correct. Okay. Now let's say the second condition is that the length of the password is not more than 4. Maybe we should change this to pin. It's most time pin code are always in 4 digits. So let's make this pin. Okay. All right. Now so now for pin, we don't want the pin to be what? To be more than 4 digits. So that can be another condition. Okay, so to add more condition to it, take note that else, when you don't have any more condition to add, that's when you make use of what? Of else. Then whatever it is you want. You understand? Okay, so let's add one more condition to this. So it's not meant to be here. So that's why I've deleted that space to start from the beginning of the line. All right, now the condition I want to add to this is if the length of the password is less than 4 and greater than 0. You understand? Or sorry, if the length of the password is greater, the other time I entered, you can see how many digits this is, and it still accepts. You understand? That's for password. But if for PIN, we don't want a user to enter mm, more than 4 digits. So let's do that. So that's where the elif come in. Now the elif is actually else if. You understand? Now, else if in some other programming language, else if. But in Python programming language, we have it as what? As elif, like this. In other programming language like Java, is always like if else. You understand? But in Python, we have it as elif. Okay, so elif password. Now, not just password, but the length of the password. So there is a function called len. Okay, len counts. Let me show you what len does. So you just take note of that once and for all. I'm going to comment this so it will show when we are trying to run this. Now let's say you have let's say name, and you have a name to be a string of let's say Frank. Okay, now you can print this name, you understand, like Frank, it will show you Frank, like that's what it's meant to do. Do you get it now? But do you know you can also count the number of letters that makes this up? And that's where, instead of just printing the name, we can print the length of, you understand, len. That's the name of the function. The length, don't worry, we still get to look at some of all these things into details later in few weeks to come. Okay, so now the length of the name, that means we want to know how many characters that makes this name. Is that okay? All right, so if I should run this is going to give us 5 because there are 5 letters in that string. Is that okay? All right, and of course, this length I can do whatever it is, that I want. For instance, I can say, if the length of name, you understand, is less than 5, meaning if the number of characters is less than 5, it should print, let's say, print true. You understand? Else print false. You understand? So now if we run this, of course you should be able to guess what would happen, because if you count the number of characters we have here is 5, so this meant to show us true. Okay, so if I should run this meant to show us true. I mean, sorry, false rather, because it will only be true if it is what? Less than. You understand? But if I should delete one more letter here, it's less than, so it's going to show me what? It's going to show me this true. Why? Because it's less than. All right, so look at that. True. Okay, but if it is more than, maybe let me add one more thing to, let's say Frankie is more than 5, so that will show us false. The only reason to show us true is if it is less than. Okay, so this will show us what? False. Look at that. Okay, so we can do a lot with that line. Okay, so just take note of that. I'm deleting this now because we're still going to do it in details later. All right, so what I want to do is that if the length of password is it must be equals to, it must be, let's say it must be less than 4, sorry, less than or equals to, it shouldn't be less than 4, it should just be 4. Length of password must equals to 4, must be 4 digits. You understand? Must be 4 digits. So elif, sorry, I use this here. Elif the length of password equals 4 digits. Sorry, if it is not equals to 4 digits, let's use not equals to here. You understand? Then it should print something like let's say something like incomplete or invalid. Let's say invalid number of characters, something like that. So meaning, if I should enter more than 4 digits, okay, it's going to show me this. So all right, so let's go ahead and do this. So let's run this again. So enter pin. So if I should enter more than I mean 4 figures like this, look at that, invalid number of characters. You get it now. And if I should enter less than that, it's meant to be pin. Got it. It's still showing me same thing. Okay. So and of course, if we enter the right things to tell us this. But I'm thinking of something. We can even combine these two together because it won't show us this welcome either if the length is not 4 or the password is wrong. So we can combine these two together using logical operators. So I'm not going to edit this. Okay. So let me just copy this. I'll copy this and comment this. All right. Now we can combine these two conditions together using logical operators. And how do we do that? So now let's do it this way. We're going to say if the length of password is not 4. You understand? And that means a must. And uh, password is not equal to that same is not equal to that same 0987, something like. Okay, so this is meant to be a string. All right, so it should show us invalid password, invalid password, like this, invalid password. So you see that? So either it is not this or it is greater, meaning if the password is not this or the length of the password is more, you understand, it will still show us invalid password. Okay, but actually I don't think I see reason for this because the first one has actually justified what we actually wanted. I mean this. Okay, the one I commented. So I don't think there is need for this. Okay, so let me remove this. So that's that about control flow statement, and you can go on to add different condition. Is that okay? Now lastly, on control flow statement, I want us to create a password and username scenario. Just that's to show you what is behind your login details. Okay, your social media login details. All right. Now let's say you have let's have a username of let's say the username here is Sammy. Username here, let's say Sammy, and my password here is let's say pass. Actually, let me make that string. Let me say pass. I'm making my P9 password, my O to be 0, my R and D. Okay, like this. All right. So now let's say I have my username and password and I need to log in. Okay. Now if I should log in, this is going to show me. It's meant to show me something like login successful. Something like this. Login successful. Something like this. It's going to show me login successful. Login successful. All right. And if it's not successful, of course, it will show me it's not successful. Now, why will it not be successful? Now it won't be successful, number one, if the login details are wrong. And remember, you must enter the two. Not that you enter username and password. Of course, we know this, right? Okay, good. So let's do something regarding this. So let's create an if statement and say if, okay, please take note, we need to create what's it called? We need to create inputs, you understand? So we need to create input. So let me call this un, or let me say user username. This should be an input that would say, let me just say username like this. Okay. Now, for the password, or let's say user password. That should also be another input. That should be another input that will say password. Please take note of this. Let me put a space here. Now, what I've just done here is to declare my variables. You understand? Is to declare what what my program is expecting. Is that okay? These are the usernames and the password my program is expecting. Now, in real life scenarios, these are meant to be stored in a database. Don't worry, we still have that ahead. Is that okay? Now, these are meant to be stored in the database. So let's assume that this is our database where the username and password is. Okay. In fact, let me add one more thing here. Let me have it as a name. Let me add another variable and let me call it name. Okay. Now let's say the name of this user, the real name of this user is let's say Sam, something like, let's say Sam. Okay. All right. Now I'm not going to ask user to enter their name, just their login details. Just like you were logging into your Facebook or your Instagram, even though you see the only two things Facebook will ask you is username and password. And when you log in into your dashboard, you see Facebook greeting you, or you see your name somewhere at the corner, somewhere on the dashboard. Okay, you see. All right. So likewise, also we are not going to ask user to enter their name, just their login details, their username and password. So now, on what condition on what condition will this login successful show? Now that's where our if statement comes in. So now say if whatever the user typing as username, remember that username I'm talking about this, okay, which is here. Let me just select this presenter. Now if whatever the user typing here is the same thing, that's is equals what is in the database, which is this username. I hope you're getting this. That username is this. Okay. Now remember, let me re-explain this. This is what the user typing. We assign it to this variable. Look at the way the variable is. Okay. So this variable is what the user type in, and this one is what is expected in the database. You see, the variables are not the same. So we are not saying that if whatever the user types in is the same thing as what's in the database, what should happen? If it's the same thing as what's in the database, then it should print what? This login successful. Is that okay? Now we're going to be having two conditions here for the elif. So elif username. Oh, we have two things here. We have only created for username. Also for password, we need to create for password too. Okay, we need to create for password also. And here we need to make use of the AND operator. Okay, to remember AND operator, you can visit you can check the previous video on AND operator, on logical operators. Okay, now I'm going to be using AND here. So and here is going to be the password the user types in, that the user password must be equals to the expected password in the database, which has been assigned to this variable called password. Remember, they are not the same. Okay. All right. So must be equals what? Password. So I'm using and. The and here means that the user must have, this condition must be met, and this condition also must be met before this login successful can come up. Meaning that username, whatever the user typing must be the same as what's in the database, and the password the user types in must be the same as the password in the database. That's why we are using the and here. So, and why that's why we are having login successful. Now let's first run this before we go too far, so that you can understand this in step. All right, username. Now my username is Sammy, so let me enter it. Let me just copy and paste it. You see that? And if I press enter, it will ask me for the password. Now password is this, so let me just copy and paste this. Look at that. Login successful. Because I use and. Now if I change this to or, so and operator here is very aware that and operator is what is being used in our login details. Now you may not be very sure until we change this to or. Now if we change this to or operator, or is another logical operator. Now the or here means that the reason a user can have this login success is if any, not it's not a must that both must be correct, but if any of it is correct, username must be correct and password is wrong, it will still log you in. Username may be wrong and password is correct, it will still what? Log you in. Or do you get it now? So now let's try that. Let's try that. Now let's say my username is wrong and my password is correct. It will log me in. Look at that, login successful. Now here it should be clearer to you that when you want to log in into anything, any dashboard, okay, the and operator is used, because if all is used, that means I can log into your details if at least I have one of the information. I may not know your password, but if I should know your username, I can go ahead to log in. Is that okay? So all operator here in this case is not safe to use in login details like this, but and is more secure to use in cases like this. Is that okay? So now let's test this. And so username is Sammy, okay, and password is this. So that should log in successfully. And if it's wrong, if any of it is wrong, like password, let's say username is correct and password is wrong, okay, that won't log me in. Okay, so instead of it not to log me in, okay, in this case, let's create a condition for this where either the username or password is wrong. So let's create a condition for that, because sometimes it could happen that way. I don't know if you have ever experienced that before, that Facebook, when you log in, Facebook will tell you that one of those login details are wrong. Okay, so let's create a condition for that. So let's create another condition here. Let's call it elif username. That's this username. Let me just copy what I have here. Let me just copy what I have here. I'll copy this and bring it here. So what I'll just change is that if username is not equal to the username here and the password here is not, but instead of using and, I'll use or. That means it can be this or this. If any of them, you get it now? If any of them, and instead of even changing this this comparison sign, I can just change this to or instead of and. So this time we want to create a condition if any of them is wrong. Is that okay? So I'm going to be using the not equals here and not equals here. Meaning that if the username is not equals to this, or the password is not equals to this, then it should show this message and say username or password incorrect. Is that okay? It should show this. Else, let's create another elif. That's if both of them are not correct. Okay, let's create another elif. So let me just paste this. So if both are not correct, that's if username is not equals to username and, you understand, and password is not equal to password, then it should show us another message and tell us that login credentials or login details are wrong, or let's say both login details are wrong. Both login details are wrong. Okay, but I don't think we actually need this, do we? We don't need this actually, because as long as it doesn't meet this condition or this set of condition is not met, then I think let's just have our else. But I'm just showing you here that you can have multiple what if conditions. Okay, so let's just have an else to end it. So else So you should print invalid login details. Invalid login detail. So that should be fine. That should be fine. All right, so let's run this and let's see how this look. Remember, we have username and password in the database. Oh, but one more thing, we didn't make use of this name. So if login details is right, of course, instead of login, just login successful, let it mention the username. That's the name of the person. You understand? So let's make it an F string so that we can insert the variable name. You understand somewhere. So login successful. Login successful. Let's add another print line, or we break this line into two using \n and say you are, or let's say good day, then mention the name, good day name, something like this. All right, so so let's go ahead and let's run this. I'm going to stop this and rerun. Okay. All right, so username, remember we have our database, our mini database. These are the expected credentials, you know, these are the expected credentials. So let's enter wrong, let's test for one wrong, one right, then we test for both wrong, then we test for the right. Okay, so now let's say the username is correct, Sammy, and the password is wrong. Look at that, username or password incorrect. So of course, the password is what is not correct here. Now let's enter, you know wrong, both wrong username and password. So wrong username, wrong password. Look at this, username or password incorrect. Okay, why do we have that? Oh yes, we need to change this. You get it now? Oh, sorry, that should give us invalid details. That should give us invalid details. Okay, that should give us invalid details. That's is it invalid details? Invalid login details. Okay, let's see, we can see what to do about that. So let's enter the right login details. That's sorry for replaying this. Okay, so let's enter Sammy and password, and of course login successful with this Sam. So now let's test for the third one. When that's the third one, actually the reason I think this is not coming up and this is still coming up is because here we use and. You understand, we are using and here. That's if username is not username here, or password is not password here, then it should show all this. Now if you change this to and, that means the only reason it's going to show us this is if both are wrong. If both are wrong, but I don't think that's actually necessary. Okay, I don't think that's actually necessary. All right, so that means we this can actually be an else, but I think it's just better this way. Now let's change this to and. Let's see what happens. Let's change this to and let's see what happens. Remember, if you change this one, meaning that it is a must that username is wrong and password here is wrong, for it to give us this. Do you get it now? For it to give us this. And of course, if both are wrong, then it shouldn't give us it. It should, instead of telling us username or password incorrect, then it should tell us both username and password are incorrect. So let's change this to both username and password. Both username and password incorrect. So let's check this. So wrong username, wrong password. See, both username and password incorrect. But this time, let's create for at least if one. We are just trying to guide users. Is that okay? We're just trying to guide users. So let's create another if statement. So I'll just copy what I have here. Just copy. So we just change the logic. Okay, so what we're going to be doing this time is let's change this to or instead of and. You understand? Let's change to or instead of and. So this time we're going to be saying username or password incorrect. Or, you understand? Or password incorrect. So let's run this again and let's test for one wrong, one right. Username is Fami, like this. Password is wrong. Good. So this is what we want to achieve. And of course, if the user type both wrong, you understand? You should tell them both are wrong. You get it now? Then if the user should type in correct information, then it should log them in. See, login successful with this time. So this is what we want to do. So that's that about control flow statements. Now let's move into the next one, which is loops. Loops. So I'll be creating a new file and I'll be calling it loop. Let me call it loop. Loop. Oh, sorry, I already have one. Okay, let me delete that. Yep. Yep. So let me create another file. Call it loop. All right. Now, what are loops? Just as the name implies, loop. When you are playing music on your phone or your music player, there are different options. Sometimes you shuffle your music tracks, meaning that it won't follow the way it is in your file. You understand, like track one, track two, track three. To rather shuffle, pick track one, go to track eight. You understand, pick track four, go to track 500. That's shuffle. And there's another option where you loop, meaning that same track keeps repeating all over and all over. When the track is done playing, you start all over again, same track. You get it now? So, and sometimes it could actually be the old song playing, then starting all over again from track one to track five. When track five is gone, go back to track one. It's still a loop. So either a track keeps playing all over and all over again, or the whole set of track is repeating. You understand? It is still loop. So when we are talking about loop simply means repetition. Is that okay? Loop means a repetition. And so we have two types of loops here in Python. We have the for loop and we have the while loop. Now, let's say we want to print something like we want to repeat some set of statements, a number of times. Something like, let's print something like let's print some string all over again. Hello user. Now, if I run this, you see hello user. Now let's try and probably make this appear like 5 times. I guess you know what you're going to do, right? So print hello user. Look at that. Print hello user 5 times, right? I know you are thinking, why not even copy and paste, right? Oh, you're right. Okay, copy that, paste, I paste, right? I just keep on pasting and pasting and pasting. So if I should run this, you see all the hello users, 5 times like that. Okay, but before then, let's do something. Let's look at some arrangements. Now, let's say we have a list of 1 to 10. Okay, let's say we have a list of 1 to 10. So let's have a number list. Don't worry, we're coming back to our hello user. Let's have a number list. Don't worry, I will explain this better to you when we get to data structure. Now let's have a list of numbers of, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, when you look at this, I can print the variable, right? So if I print the variable, what do I have? I have my number list like the way it is, just the way I have it. Okay, but I have everything on the same line. Okay, but what if I want to have different numbers on different lines, like one, two, one, two, three, like, you understand, on different lines. Like I want to have one at the top, two under two, I want to have three under three, I want to have four, like that. I want to have it, arranged instead of horizontally, I want to have it arranged vertically. Do you get it now? So what do I do? In that case, I can actually loop through. So I can actually loop through. And how do I do that? That's where we make use of for loop. We make use of for loop. So now here is the syntax for loop. Now you make use of the keyword for, followed by a new variable, a variable of your choice. Then you make use of the in keyword, then followed by the existing variable. Existing variable. Then followed by a colon, then followed by what to print. Okay, so you print the new variable. You understand? You print the new variable. So this is the same thing that we're going to be doing down here. So I'm making use of the same syntax. So I'm making use of my for keyword for create a new variable. A variable can be anything. Let's say number. You understand? The in keyword, then the existing variable is number list, right? It's number list. Then followed by my column as I have it here. Then what am I printing? I'll be printing number. So if I run this, you will see you see it changed. Okay. So let's first print it before the loop. We have it this way, number list. Okay. Let me put the space, and after the loop, we have it changed. So I'm going to add something here, just something like say just something like say before loop. Okay, we have this. Then here after loop, okay, we have this. All right, so let's run this and let's see what we have. Okay, so this is what we have. So before the loop, we have it this way. So after we apply the for loop, you see what we now have. We now have it this way. Now it's not necessarily has to do with numbers. It can actually be a set of string. For instance, let's have a set of names. Let's have a set of names. Let's have this can actually be a mixture. You understand? So let's just call it data. Okay, so let's have the first one to be name. Let's say Dave. The first one, let's have it to be an integer of 25. Next one, let's have it to be a boolean of true. Next one, let's have it to be a float of, let's say, 152.8, something like that. Okay, and last one, let's have none, something like this. Okay, all right, so let's make this David. All right, so let's loop through this. So we say for d in, you see, your variable can be your variable name, your new variable can be anything. You understand? For d in data, print what? Can you guess? The new variable, print d. So if we run through this, let me comment this out so it won't reflect in our terminal again. All right, so let's run this. Look at that. You see, each on different lines. Each on different lines. So that is a for loop. Okay, so basically, and you see, you can do anything with these for loops. You understand? You can do anything with this for loop. For instance, you can add, a string to it, or you can even make this an f string. You understand? To say your variable d, right? You can add another set of data to it. You understand? Is in the loop, something like this. So it's going to apply this string. You understand? To each of all this. Okay, so let's rerun this. Look at it. David is in the loop. You see that? You can even add, let's even add this. Let's add a quote just to tell them apart, and let's add full stop here. See, got David is in the loop, 25 is in the loop, true is in the loop. This is, you understand, like that. Is that okay? So you can see what we can do with for loop. There are many more other things with for loop, but when we get to data structures, we're going to be looking at that because we're still going to be repeating for loop, but in more advanced level in data structure. All right. Now let's go to while loop. Now, back to our LO user. So let's have while loop. So now you can imagine, so let's go back to what we're doing for, and you can imagine me repeating this, let's say 100 times. You can imagine how stressful that would be. Though you may be thinking it's not stressful as such, it won't be that stressful. After all, you can be copying and pasting. See this 10 times. Okay. So now what if you have to write this 10,000 times? So that means you keep copying and pasting. I guess that will still be stressful. Okay. So instead of doing this, why not make it a loop? And what is that? Or how can you make that a loop? Now, this while loop has a sub topic, and that is controlling a while loop. Controlling a while loop. So don't worry, let's just go ahead. Now, how do we create this loop? Now we can have a while. You can have, let's have a variable called count, for instance. Let's just say count is 0. Okay. And we are now saying while count, as long as count is let's say is greater than 0, what should happen? Now I'm going to reduce all this print hello to be 1. Okay, so as long as count is greater than 0, don't worry, for now it's still 0. But as long as the count is greater than 0, then this should happen. Now remember, anytime you make use of a condition, it must be followed by what? A colon. And anytime you make use of a colon, the next line must be indented. So I'm going to tab this. Okay, you see that initially it was underlining the P, right? Can you see? That means it's meant to be underlined. If you run this way, it's going to show you an error. Look at that. And what type of error is that? Indentation error. Don't worry, in other classes ahead, we're going to look at how to bypass this kind of error, this red text, such that for users who are ignorantly making errors, it won't show them this, error codes, but it rather give them a nice message as you want it to look to them. All right. But for now, we are having an indentation error. Okay. So all you just have to do is to indent this, just tab. Okay. All right. So now, as long as count is greater than 0, this should be, but of course count is 0 here, right? So it's not greater than 0. So let's run this and let's see what will happen. Nothing is happening because count is 0. But we're only saying the only reason this will happen is if count is greater than 0. Okay, now let's make this 5, for instance, and let's run this again. Look at that. So it keeps on showing hello user, hello, and that's how to keep on showing it. If I should leave this to tomorrow, it will continue until my system memory is filled up. So I would like to terminate this now. Okay. All right. I would like to terminate this now. And so that means that means when we are making use of a while loop, it's necessary that we have how to control it. Do you get it now? It's important that we know how to control it. And there are times that, okay, I know, are you thinking, okay, what is this count doing? Well, don't worry, you may actually, there are cases where you actually create variables. For instance, it can actually just be a while true, you understand? Print hello user. Let's run this. You see that? It's still same thing. Do you get it now? So let's terminate this. So that means if we want this, if you don't want this to continue, is that okay? We can actually create a break. Now, what that break is going to do is that it will just show this once, like as if you just print an hello word normally. Okay, but what if we want this to be printed like 5 times, 10 times, 100 times? What do we do? Now that's where the count comes in. Is that okay? Now before the while loop, I can create a count, a variable. It's not necessarily has to be count like the word counts. Okay, it can be anything. And I can create a count. Okay, and if count is 0, I can, instead of saying while true, I can say while count, while count is I can create a limit. Is that okay? While count is less than 5. Why? That means what's this app? Don't worry, I'll explain what is happening here. While count is less than 5, or let's say less than 10, do you get it now? It should print hello world and break. Now let's run this. Oh, sorry. Let's, okay. That still continues. All right. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to terminate this again, and do something. Now let's make this to be 10, and I'm going to do something. Oh, okay, okay, okay. I think this can best be explained with this. But don't worry, you can still continue. Now count is 0, and while count is less than 10, this should continue. Okay, and let's break this. Let's break this, and if we run this, it will just show this once. But what if it's number? What if it is number? Okay, that I want to count. I think you will get to understand something better from that. Now let's create a variable called count. Let's create a variable called count. Let the count start with 0, and let's create a while and say um, while count is probably less than, because we need to create a limit. While count is less than 10, it should take an increment. Now increment here simply means that, let me first do this. Count should be plus or equals 1. Now what this simply means is that I want to count some numbers. You understand? Okay, starting with from 0. Do you get it now? And that, you remember, it's a loop, so it will keep counting 1 2 3 4 blah 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 blah. Do you get it now? Okay, now I would start from 0, continue 1 2 3 4, and how is it going to continue? Number 4, the first thing here is that I created where to start from. The next thing here is that I created the condition, like more like a limit, meaning that when you start counting, hmm, whatever it is you want to count, it must be less than what? 10. Okay, and what I've just done here is to create a count mode, how I want it counted. Do I want it to be counting like 1 2 3 4 0 1 2 3 4? That's adding 1 1 1 1 to it, or there are other ways. Now let me first run this and let's see what we're going to be having. Okay, sorry. After creating the count mode, I should print the count. Okay, sorry. All right, so let's print the count and let's see what we have. Look at that. So it will definitely start from 1. So it's not going to include the starts with it. So it will start from 1. If I want it to start from probably 0, then that means this has to be what? A minus 1. You get it? Then that will definitely start from 0. Look at that. So, well, if I make it 0, then that means it's going to start from 1, and so on. You see that? Now, this is a limit. So if I increase this limit, that means it can continue up to 20 or probably 25. That's 1 to 25. Look at that. Stopping on 25. See that? So, and now here is a kind of, like I said, let me add some comment here. Now, here is the start. You understand? The start of count. Okay. Here, what you are doing here is that you're setting the limit, setting limit, setting count limit. And what we have done here, then on the third line, what you have done on the third line is that we set a count mode. That's how the count is meant to be done. You understand? How the count is meant to be done. Okay. Now, for instance, I can change this count mode to 5, meaning that it's going to start from 5, 10, 15, like that. Or let's make the count mode to be 2. You understand? Okay, you see, look at that. You see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You understand? Now I can decide to make it 5. Look at that. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. You see that now? So that's that about while loop. Okay, now let's check something here. Let's check something here. Now, as you can see here, we can create a limit. We can create a limit, like a limit of something. Now, there's something I actually intend that we do here. Let's do that down here. Let me comment this out. Okay, double. So that's the about while loop. But let's do something more about while loop. Let's say while true. Let's say you have before we do that, let's first do this. Now let's say we have um account of let's say count of 5. We are having while count is less than 5. Sorry, let this one be 0. Now while count is less than 5, what do? We want to print hello user. We want to print hello user. Okay, so then what? So if we try to run this, it's still going to continue until we probably add a break to it. Is that okay? Until we probably add a break to it. So then if this is happening, then that means there is no need for the count. Just say while true, then do whatever it is you want to do. But let me show you other areas where this count can actually, where this while loop is also very important. Imagine you have a kind of login details, like a login details of maybe where you have to use a pin and whatever. So that means all that must be. Now let me explain better. We want to have a login where you have to be entering some login details. Okay, and at the end of each execution, meaning at the end of maybe after you are done logging in, you understand, it will still probably for another person, still ask another person to log in instead of quitting the program entirely and probably starting all over again for another user. Okay, so let me try and analyze or describe what I'm trying to say with this piece of code. Now let's have something like let's say pin. Let's say pin equals 1 2 3 4 5, and now we are having user pin to be of course, an input that says enter pin. Okay. Now remember, all this must be in a while loop if you want that to continue. So just say while true. Okay. And remember, anytime you use a column here, that means every other thing must be what? Indented. All right. So while true. So now we would say that if user pin, if whatever the user entered is equals the pin, okay, then it should print login successful. That should be a string. It should print login successful. Login successful. Okay. Else it should print invalid details or invalid pin. Now look at this. Remember, we have two ways to control our while loop, and that's using break and continue. We only mentioned break. Now, this is a while loop. There is no control here. You understand? This is what I mean. Let's run this. Enter pin. Let's even enter the wrong pin. The right pin. 1 to 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see? Invalid pin. Okay, let's correct that because it's an integer. Okay, so let's just make this a string like this. All right, so let's stop and rerun this. So enter pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Enter pin. You see that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Enter pin. You see? So why will your pin be correct and it should be asking you to enter pin? Why? Is because your loop has no, or let me say my loop here has no control. So I need to control that if this is successful, as long as it brings this successful message, then it should break the loop. Meaning it shouldn't ask me again. But if it's invalid, then it should continue the loop. That's where we make use of this break and continue. And by default, if you don't put continue, it will continue by itself. Let's run this. Let's run this. So I'm going to put space down here at the top of the enter pin. So let's run this again. So you see, I just put a break here when it is successful. But here I remove the continue. By default, I'm saying that by default this should continue if there is an invalid pin. Okay. All right. So let's run this again. Enter pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then that should break. You see that it's not asking me to do that again. Now, but if I enter the wrong pin, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Look at that. Invalid. Enter again. 1, 2, 3, blah, blah, blah. You see? So as long as I keep entering wrong pin, to keep asking me to what to enter until I enter the right pin, that's when it will break out of the loop. You get it now? So please take note of that. So that's that about loop, while loop, and for loop. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And for my premium students, I'll be can always you know how you get to me, you know how you contact me, and for probably some practicals, I mean, some project or whatever. All right. So if you have any question, like generally, you can send your question to the comment and I'll definitely respond. Thank you.